Good morning, everybody. You're tuned in to Crackcore. Thank you for being here today. Today is Monday, the 30th of January, 2023, and I heard something this morning on a video that I was watching, which made me have a little bit of a perspective thought. I basically was forced to think slightly differently, or at least question some of my own thoughts and opinions, which I think was fantastic, because anything that provokes thought and potential evolution, especially in your own mind, is very welcome. Basically, these guys were talking about the potentials for the 2024 American election. Now, the presidential election, or the running for the candidates and stuff like this. Excuse me. Now, these people are, you know, being American and stuff, clearly very invested in their own politics. You know, America is supposed to be the land of the free. They've got the Constitution and stuff, which, you know, the American Constitution is, if you look at it, it's a good document, man. It gives people freedoms and stuff, you know, sovereignty over their own lives, for the most part, you know, within the parameters of a law-abiding community. You know, it does have within it, you know, the abilities in the population to stand up for themselves and to hold those in power accountable. Although, you know, subterfuge and stuff these days muddies the water on all that stuff. But let's not dissect the Constitution. I don't know enough about it to do so. But, you know, that being said, the Americans love their politics and they love their nation, and that's fine, that's fair enough. There's nothing wrong with being patriotic at all. You know, patriotism isn't racism, you know. Being a patriot is about your country, not the colour of your skin. I mean, ultimately, I've got my own views and opinions, again, on patriotism. It is another form of tribalism, you know, and if we're ever going to get anywhere and integrate with one another, then tribalism isn't really the way, is it? Because that's just bloody segregation. It's a bit silly, really, to think about it. No wonder we're banging our heads against a brick wall. But nonetheless, maybe we need elements of patriotism in order to empower the people enough to actually fight against tyranny. Like, who knows? There's a purpose for everything, and in, you know, in everything there is a reason. But that's not why we're doing this video today. Basically, they're talking about their politics and the potentials, the ins and outs, the ups and the downs about, you know, the 2024 election. And they were saying that people like Trump and DeSantis are the best bets based on what, you know, Biden and who else they're saying is going to run. Michelle Obama, apparently, she's rumoured. But you see, they're talking about things on a level that is still Democrat and Republican. It's all a game, you know. The world's a stage, man, you know. It's just all a fucking show. Democrat, Republican, it's all the same in my opinion. Get to that in a minute though. It's like a 1,000-year plan or whatever. But what made me question my own thoughts and opinions on all of that is quite simply the fact that we are all human beings, as much as we are, in some cases, members of certain organisations and access to certain circles of individuals, therefore can be of a certain disposition when it comes to power and authority. And some would say that the higher up in those kind of spheres you get, the more corrupt you become. And therefore, quite cynically say that, I'm not putting myself out of that bracket. I've been of a cynical mindset before where I've said, that quite simply, because somebody's in power, they're not trustable. So it got me thinking though, because we're all human beings, man, right? We're all individual though as well. And we all have the ability to make our own choices, and we can all make a change, whether it's on the grassroots level like you and I, or whether it's from the upper echelons of our control system. So when people say, cynically enough, and they're right within their perception, that perhaps someone like Donald Trump has no ability to make a change because he's a puppet, and quite simply by being there proves that he is a puppet of the establishment, of the oligarchy. And I'm still of that mindset, but I am also willing to accept though that there would be an element of possibility that, considering the fact that he is also a human, he is also, and this goes not just for him but for anybody, DeSantis, Christ, I don't know about Biden, I don't know if I could put him in the category. But anybody would have the ability, once there, to make certain changes, quite simply because they are a human being. So I'm not saying be faithless, but let people's actions speak for themselves, and so on. And try not to jump on a bandwagon of either hate or hopium towards an individual, because we're just that, individuals, and we all make our choices and decisions in life, and based on that is how we should be viewed, really. Quite simply because somebody like Donald Trump, because that's who and the reason I mention him is because that's who they're saying has the greatest opportunity to run for the Republicans. Just because simply someone like Donald Trump is an individual with the power to make change doesn't necessarily mean that you should have all the hope in the world that he will do and put all your faith in that person and then hand over all of your own personal authority for change to that person. And on the other hand, it also says that quite simply because they're a politician and that they're in the White House, or at least in the upper echelons of our control grid, that they shouldn't be trusted to make those decisions should they be given the chance. I think what we have to do, like I've said, is err on the side of caution, pay more attention to ourselves and how we are managing ourselves in this thick soup of tyranny that we find ourselves wading through on a daily basis, and make the right choices for ourselves based on what we want our world to be. It's not simple, I get it. Change is hard. It's difficult. But you see, I'll go back to what I said a minute ago with the 1,000-year plan. Because we can have a neutral perspective and allow people's actions to speak for them, etc. But at the same time, it's my personal view that if you've got this separate breakaway type civilization where I think quite clearly that's what's going on, certain rules apply for different levels within our society. You know, look at the Clinton family. Apparently there are people that can be proven to have died either by or by proxy the hands of the Clintons, quite simply for political and espionage reasons, in order to gain favour or to gain power in one aspect or another, to better themselves or their position. You know, these people are seemingly beyond the law. I mean, look at people in the British government, for instance. Look at what happened over the last few years. It was a blatant cash grab. There was racketeering going on. And yet these people remain free, not in cuffs. I mean, that's down to us not holding these people to rights. You know, if we demand a better fucking world, then I'm sure we'll get one eventually. But what I'm saying is there are different laws that apply for different levels of society. And if you know that you've broken into that upper echelon of where rules don't apply to you anymore, you can pretty much do what you want so long as you don't get caught too badly. I mean, look at the whole Epstein stuff. You know, like, people are focused on him, but people remain unfocused on, for instance, the people that he was serving. You know, the people he was supplying with his perversions and stuff. And it's like these people elude justice on a daily basis. It doesn't matter what they do. It seems that they are beyond the realms of the law. If you are well aware that you're in that club, well, then you'd do anything, wouldn't you? And if you know that your family will inherit the same, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? If they will inherit the same benefits, that's the word, simply by design of being in your family, and if they play by the rules, etc., and toe the line for the establishment, well, then they're going to be doing the same stuff. You know, they're going to be well happy within their situation, and they're just going to continue with the plan. Now, what am I talking about when I say the plan, you see? Because this is where I'm getting to. If you're a part of this system, if you're a part of this upper echelon, and you've got these benefits, well, then that gives you a completely different perspective on life itself, the longevity of it, and all of these things. I won't bother going into the reincarnation stuff this time, but I have heard rumours that these people are able to pick and choose, and if at the very least predict with a level of 100% certainty how, when and where they will reincarnate. And if you know about that stuff, then you know how to remind someone once they've been reincarnated, therefore they will continue on with the benefits that they had in their last life, and so on, re-inherit their own wealth, so to speak. So, based on all of this, seems a bit kooky to the bystander here. But it's out there for argument nonetheless. It's out there for, conceptualizing over. If you're of this mindset and if you're privy to these things and you've got this type of life, well then you're going to want to keep it. Not only for yourself, but for your ancestors, for your family. You're thinking about longevity here. You're thinking, well, I don't want to reincarnate in, 300 years, Earth time, and end up with nothing. So I need to make sure that the world not only remains as it is, but gets even more within the grasp of the power that we choose to invoke. Now, let's just say, for instance, you take out the reincarnation stuff and you say it's simply because they're indoctrinated into a society of individuals that believe that their bloodlines should only ever be the ones who control, or should be the ones controlling everybody else. And your life is given to a greater cause. Okay, no, I mean, that's easy enough to believe when you look at wars. People are willing to go and die on the battlefield because they believe that their life is being given for a greater cause. Little did they know, as much as their bravery is appreciated, little did they know it was for the profit of fat men sat behind desks, stuff in their pockets, with resources and influence and power. What a joke. But let's just say, for instance, that's the way it is. It's easy to believe, right? Well then, you could easily assume then that these people would have plans that span greater than their own life. Greater distances in time, linear time, than their own perceived existence on this planet as the person that they are, or at least in this life. So they're giving their life for a greater cause. The cause being total control and manipulation over the planet. Well, that's not going to happen. If you're talking lifetimes, people giving their whole lives to a cause, well then it's longer than a lifetime, isn't it? Which means it probably spans thousands of years. They've probably got plans that they want to put in place that they've already got planned out thousands of years down the line. And as much as that's hard to believe, because we only kind of see things through our own perception of our own life being start, finish, finite. And we only kind of start to become conscious to these kind of aspects later on in life, for the most part, given the fact that our curriculums blind us from these things. And they are on a constant pursuit to take away these types of informations and censor us to the point where we're never really able to access this type of stuff, which, by design shows you exactly what their fucking agenda is with all that anyway, and the probable truth behind it. Well, the 4 years, based on all of this, the 4 years that somebody is seemingly in power, whether it be Trump, Biden, Kamala Harris, fuck me man, Joe Biden, fucking what's his name, Jeffrey Obama, Christ, what's his name? Obama anyway, him. It doesn't really matter who he is or who she is who's in power, because 4 years at that point, then, if you're looking at thousands of years, 4 years is a literal grain of sand. But 4 years will allow for a little step in a plan. Because remember, 4 years to us is a chunk of our lives, but 4 years to them is very small, given the fact their plan spans a long period of time. So they can impose a lot on us within 4 years, because to us it's a great piece of time. But to them, it's just a small piece of their plan. They're moving on to the next step. So when you see things happening in the political sphere, it's like people in our life, with our reference of time, think that it's like happening organically, and you've got this person against that person, and it all matters in this grand scheme in our lives. But if you take yourself out of that very small, fractionalized perception of time, well, and you start to see things from an overview perspective, and accept the potential for a very long plan, well, then you see things extremely different. I mean, ultimately, if you've got 1,000 years to do something, and you know that most people will only last, 100 years at the very most, and that's a small fraction of people, well, then you've got 10 times that. How many 4-year spans can you fit into 100 years? A lot. So when you look at things on that perspective, where you say that they've got a plan over the span of thousands of years, they've already decided whether or not Trump is going to be in power. The fact that we're arguing and conceptualizing over what would happen if he got in power again is irrelevant, because it's already been decided whether or not he will, because the pros and cons and the aspects of each pro and con and how that will ripple out has already been thought of, and what contingencies can be brought in based on X, Y, or Z of each individual situation, of how it pans out, of what they choose, what they gain public favour with. If they get public favour with this, or this, well, then they'll do that, or that. And if they don't, well, then they'll do this, and that. So it's already been planned out to a degree of certainty. And I dare say nowadays, with technology and quantum mechanics, they've got computers that can predict everything, hence the need for all of your data. Every single thing you say and do is recorded, thus helping them to predict absolutely everything. That's why these things are so heavily monitored. Things like Facebook, take your power back and delete the fucker. That's what I say. Blind the bastards. Don't give them their predictive capabilities. Because it makes their plan easier. Have you noticed that changes seem to be on a more subtle basis in our society? Bigger changes got fought against, whereas now they're able to push big stuff because they're able to predict quicker what will happen. They're able to feel out public opinion, and then based on what those public opinions will be, know exactly what to put in place after that in order to quell the public. It's a very simple game for these people now. Very simple. But it's still planned out. It's still planned out. Don't fall for the game. Don't fall for the game, man, because the game is being played by them. They hold all the cards, they hold all the pieces, they're rolling the dice, and the dice is rigged. The dice has got a weight on it, and they can choose where to place that weight. They can get that dice to fall wherever they want. I would say take back your power, personally. Don't wait for a messiah. By all means, accept that there could be one, but take back your power. Get rid of what it is they need in order to profit from you. Take back what it is that they need in order to predict what you might do should they do this or that. Because then you take away their power, you take away their eyes. You know, Big Brother has always been watching. It just watches a little closer these days. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you for being here with me today. I'm going to wish love and peace, truly, to all things everywhere. This is Cragcore signing off. Peace.